Go ahead.
All right, good morning. We'll call this meeting to order. Can we do the roll call, please?
Member Lopez?
Here.
Member Perello?
Here.
And Chair Flynn is not with us yet, but may be joining us later. And Chair, we have, Vice Chair. We do have a quorum, and the agenda for this meeting was posted in the City Hall kiosk on Tuesday, June 16th.
All right, can everyone join in the flag salute? If you can stand where you are at, please. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. All right, so we have one public comment on items not on the agenda.
Correct. That's from Henry, and I will bring him in right now.
Perfect, thank you.
Hi, Henry. Oops. Okay, looks like we got his voicemail, so we can either try again or try later or just move on.
Yeah, maybe we could try again later. Maybe give him a minute. Let's move on to consent agenda, and then maybe we could try after that.
Okay.
Okay, so under consent agenda is the approval of the minutes from the meeting of May 26th. Councilmember Perello, were you able to take those?
I'm sorry, I was muted. I moved the recommended action. Sorry, Madam Chair.
No problem, and I will second that.
Member Lopez?
Yes.
And Member Perello?
Yes.
The motion carries 2-0.
All right, and Michelle, can we try Mr. Henry once again, and then if otherwise we can move on to the first item under reports.
Sure. Okay, it's a no-go.
All right. Well, we tried. Thank you. Thank you for doing that. So we'll go on to item number 1 under reports. Under the City Manager Department, City of Oxnard Internal Audit Department Whistleblower Summary Update.
Okay, that would be my part. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Chair Lopez, Member Perello, for joining.
Good morning, Henry.
Good morning, and everyone else who's joining us virtually. Again, my name is Henry Ohm from Price Page & Company. We function as the independent internal auditors for the City of Oxnard. Our firm is contracted through the city to help monitor the City of Oxnard's whistleblower program. So I'm here to present an update on the program through the first part of June. Okay, next slide, please. As I mentioned earlier, we presented an update on the whistleblower program through the end of February, and that was actually presented to the Finance and Governance Committee back in March. So this morning's presentation focuses on any new allegations or complaints that were received from March through June 4th. And we issued a report on that update that's also included in the agenda package if anyone has an interest in reading that. But for those who aren't familiar with the whistleblower program, a quick rundown of the program itself. In 2017, the city established this whistleblower program to be contracted through our firm, Price Page & Company, an independent accounting firm, to receive complaints from city employees, residents, any other members of the general public that wanted to potentially report improper governmental action. And if the general public may know, there's a number of different mechanisms and venues that you could report potential allegations of fraud, waste, or abuse. You can go online to the city's website. There should be a link that allows you to click on that link to report that potential fraud, waste, or abuse. And it actually takes that person to our internal website, Price Page & Company's website, in which they fill out a form. And information filled on that form comes directly to us as the internal auditors. The city does not get that information, okay? So that's one mechanism. There's also a hotline available. The hotline, someone can call into that hotline and report the potential allegation, and someone will take their information and the nature of that allegation, and that's available in both English and Spanish. They could email us. So our email address is available to the general public as well. So if they're comfortable with just emailing us the allegations, they can do so, and we will be able to get back to them if they provide information for contact, okay? So a number of different mechanisms that allows people to report potential fraud, waste, or abuse, okay? Complaints that we do receive do remain confidential, so I wanted to stress and emphasize that. The identity of the complainant will not be revealed without their permission, their specific permission, with the exception of to appropriate law enforcement agencies. So if there's someone's conducting a criminal investigation, obviously they're subpoenaing us for information, we are required by law to disclose that information, okay? Next slide, please. A quick reminder that we do receive a number of different allegations. However, the internal auditors, our firm, only really focus on investigating fiscal-related matters, We do receive other matters from time to time, and they are forwarded to the appropriate department as we evaluate that. So again, when we go through the summary of allegations and complaints received, a lot of them aren't related to finance or fiscal related matters. So although we do receive them, we don't investigate them personally, we forward them to the appropriate department. Now, obviously, if we're getting a complaint about a specific department, we're not going to give that allegation to them. We route it to the appropriate personnel, okay? And after we receive the complaint, we evaluate the complaint for merit. So this doesn't mean we evaluate everything that comes through the hotline. We have to screen it to determine whether there's merit in order to conduct a formal investigation, okay? Next slide, please. The technical term for screening that complaint is called predication. And predication is defined by the Association of Certified Fraud Examiners as the totality of circumstances that would lead a reasonable, professionally trained, and prudent individual to believe a fraud has occurred, is occurring, and or will occur. Excuse me. Okay, next slide, please. So when we screen for predication, that's what we're trying to do, determine whether there's merit, okay? So that screening process potentially involves talking to department personnel, employees, the complainant, to gather more information. Then we have to make an assessment, two assessments actually, of whether we need to pursue that matter or not if predication is established. So there's a quantitative consideration, and I'll talk about the qualitative considerations later. So we as an independent firm have to determine what is the best use of city resources to investigate these specific matters. So we identify an issue of whether it's high, medium, and low. And the range is anything above $75,000 exposure to the city we consider to be high. Anything between $25,000 and $75,000 is considered medium. And the low priority would be anything less than $25,000. So that's the quantitative assessment. Next slide, please. Now we have the qualitative assessment, right? And so this is also categorized as high, medium, or low. So a high priority under qualitative assessment would be whether it involves high level of management members, any potential collusion of multiple wrongdoers, that would be considered high. Medium would be any potential abuse of authority, medium to low employment levels. So this might not be high management level members, but someone at the department level, right? And then we have low priority, so isolated potential issues of isolated instances of time abuse or other wasteful practices. So we have to consider both the quantitative factors and also the qualitative factors in deciding how to proceed with a potential investigation. Next slide, please. So as I mentioned, we presented in March the complaints received through the end of February. This is presented from March 1st through June 4th. That's the period. And from that period, we received a total of 12 complaints. However, 9 of the 12, 75% of that, were all related to COVID-19 concerns. And the allegation of the concerns is, hey, this company is not essential. They're still operating. Can you guys help look into it? Those were the nature of the COVID-19 concerns that we received. So they weren't ignored. They were forwarded to the appropriate department for resolution and assistance. Okay, so I wanted to point that out. 9 out of the 12 were related to COVID-19. There was one complaint that we did assess as medium overall and will be reviewed with the prior complaint. And so that is, if you can see on that list under priority medium, it's the only one listed as medium down below, 2020-2-2, potential abuse of authority. So the current action is that the Internal Audit Department is determining whether predication exists. When we evaluate the complaint, it was very comparable to a prior complaint reported back in March. So we believe it's more effective and efficient to review this complaint in connection with that as well. So it will be done together since the issue is surrounding the same department, really the same individual. Okay, so I wanted to share that with everyone. Okay, next slide, please. So a quick summary to date, we have received a total of 68 complaints, including the 12 that I just shared with everyone. We investigated a total of 3 of the 68 on the whistleblower program. Of the 3 complaints, 2 have been completed already. There is one that is currently pending. We have completed our investigation, so we're working with that department to come up with the appropriate response to share with the Finance and Governance Committee. So we're expecting that to be completed within the next 6 weeks. So obviously we're issuing our comments. We solicit feedback. It's not just a report that we put out. We work together with the department to come up with the recommended action going forward. So that will be shared with city management and the department once that's done, and then presented to the Finance and Governance Committee, okay? And as I mentioned earlier, there was one that we assessed at medium, and that relates to another group of complaints received in the prior periods. So we believe that's similar in nature and will be reviewed at the same time. So we're still currently determining whether predication exists for that series of complaints. Okay. Next slide, please. So that was a very quick rundown of the allegations and complaints received from March through June 4th. Again, as I mentioned, a majority of those complaints are related to COVID-19. We are investigating one that should be wrapped up within the next 6 weeks. And there is another series of allegations that will be investigated to determine whether predication exists, and that's currently in progress. So if there's any questions or comments, I'm happy to address them at this time.
All right, thank you for the presentation. Mr. Perello, do you have any questions or comments?
I appreciate the report. Thank you, Madam Chair. I appreciate the report. I'm going to ask now because I'm sure I'm going to be asked when I leave the meeting. When the information comes up about the medium risk that has been addressed, there will be a report that will be given to the committee, but will it be allowed to be made public? That's my only question. And I don't know if that's an internal city question, auditor question. How does that work? For example, if somebody makes a public request for information to get the details of that complaint, will that be allowed? That might be a city attorney question also.
Yes. Yep. And Councilmember Perello, that's a very valid point you made at the end. What we would have to do is we would certainly work with city management on that, but also work with the city attorney to determine whether the information presented should be subject to public presentation or whether it is subject to a PRA, a public records request. So obviously the city needs to evaluate that, and we would work with the city. It would not just be a blanket report that gets issued on our end.
Thank you. That's my only question.
All right, thank you. I just had a question, and I may have asked this before, but if you can remind me, what does it mean to refer one of these complaints to a department? Is that just handed over to the department to when it's a lower level complaint, or what level of involvement do you have in that process?
So it's a very good question. So when we get a complaint, we would evaluate whether it has financial or fiscal merit to it or not. If it does, then likely it stays with us. However, if it's a low-level complaint, if we ultimately assess that it's finance related or fiscal related, but it's low and it might not justify utilizing city resources for us to fully investigate a low-level matter, we would route it to what we consider to be the most appropriate department to take action. And obviously, for example, if we're getting a complaint for a specific department, we're not going to forward that complaint to that department if the allegation is related to that department. So what we've been doing is we have been working with the city manager's department in forwarding those complaints to the representative for the city manager's department to route to the most appropriate department. So we have to consider that. So if it's low level of risk or low level of concern, that's normally what we do. If it's moderate and it's fiscal related, we keep it with the internal audit, and we would try and determine whether predication exists.
Great, thank you so much. Well, I think I appreciate the information and that we're seeing these periodic updates on these complaints to show the transparency with our employees, our staff, and our community. So appreciate that. And I believe that was just a receive and file, so there's no action to be taken on that. Thank you so much, Mr. Uom. Appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good day, Norm.
Thank you.
Okay. The next item on the agenda is the Utility Rate Assistance Program, and is Ms. Rosemary Gaglione going to take on the presentation?
No, we have Jay Duncan here. He's the call center manager, and he's going to do the presentation for us.
All right, I'll hand it over. Thank you.
Good morning, Chair Lopez, Member Perello. My name is Jay Duncan. I'm the Public Works Call Center Manager. I also manage the Project Assist, also known as the city's rate assistance program, since its inception in July of 2017. I have the opportunity to give you an update on Project Assist Year 3 and to make some recommendations for a possible Year 4. Next. Next slide. Oh. No, I don't. Oh. We don't have the clickers. Okay, good. The recommendation that we have before you is twofold. First, to adopt a resolution for the Ratepayers Assistance Program, Project Assist Year 4, in fiscal year 2021 for utility bills to assist Oxnard low-income residents and authorized staff to grant financial relief equal to a constant $15 credit for the monthly utility services charges to customers who meet the eligibility requirements discussed in the staff report, and to authorize staff to direct up to $145,000 from penalty fees to current customers who pay their bills late to fund the utility rate assistance program for fiscal year 2021. Before we get into the Project Assist Year 3 updates, I want to say a little bit and recap how we got to Year 4. In the spring of 2017, a citywide team was formed from departments and offices such as the city manager's office, the city attorney's, finance, the Department of Utility Billing and Licensing, and Public Works. with that team that got together, we formed the facets and all the variables to bring the program forward and the recommendation forward in fiscal year 2017, 2018. I want to highlight in the year 3 update the impact of coronavirus and what we found in May of 2020 that helped with getting 46 participants signed up towards the end of the fiscal year. And that was to actually do a more of a low technology outreach with a standard utility bill insert. As you might recall, the last 3 years we focused on sign-up sessions monthly at the city libraries. After March or after February, we had to strictly go by electronic mail. And many of these folks use U.S. mail because they don't have access to computers or knowledge to use them, or smartphones. I mentioned also that we have a diversity of age ranges. In year 2, we actually had someone that was 101 years old through a caregiver apply and get accepted the program and become a part of Project Assist. The program reaches all the zip codes in Oxnard and all the council districts. And we came within 3% of the participation numbers that we had for year 2, 531. We don't accept applications until they're complete. And finally, I'd like to say that to walk you through on how we take the applications, whether electronically or face-to-face. Number 1, people turn in a 1-page application that they can download in English or Spanish. The second thing is that they have to be a member of the CARE program for either Edison or for the Southern California Gas Company. And 95% of our signups have that eligibility in Edison or the gas company. So there are other social assistant programs that we have in the resolution that do qualify. And that can be CalWorks, CalFresh, as well as Medi-Cal. So we've seen those, but mostly it's attracted folks that are already involved in participating in the CARE program for Edison or for Southern California Gas. And finally, the critical thing is that they have a city utility bill account in their name. So the billing of utility billing and licensing can credit the $15 when the public works staff does the program implementation, has the signups and reviews, and does the due diligence on their eligibility. Okay. So the recommended amount of annual assistance is the same as it was last year. It's $15 monthly credit towards the utility bill for the residents. That's just under 17 or 16% of the annual penalty fees, which so far in 11 months of the fiscal year is $1.01 million. So the first 2 years of the program, it was $100,000 that was approved by council, and that was $10 a month per participant. So what did we learn in year 3 that worked? And you know, I made the point earlier that the quarterly utility bill inserts really hit the Project Assist targeted audiences. We only did 1 this year. We really tried to explore all the other paperless ways to promote the program on the city website, the different social media, as well as we did have some help with getting some press releases printed in the local newspaper promoting the sign-up sessions. We have a strong collaboration with the Office of Billing and Licensing, the City Manager's Office, the ENCO to promote the program in the weekly neighborhood packages. And And we allow residents multiple facets, multiple sessions to either electronically file or sign up by US mail. So where Project Assist can improve in year 4, certainly we have to recognize that our target audience does not necessarily use computers or smartphones. And that's why pending the committee forwarding this item to City Council and City Council approving it for year 4, I've reserved utility bill inserts on a quarterly basis. What's interesting with this May insert, we're seeing people hang on to it in June that have applied after the deadline. And we have 75 people that are in queue right now waiting for action from the committee and from City Council. And they will be then the first group of signed up for Project Assist. And then finally, the refining, we're looking, studying other communities that are using the same mechanism to fund the utility rate assistance. And this gives you kind of a branded look of the inserts and the social media look that we have and the website. And we're going to continue with that. And it's perfect. The insert even attracts people that are pretty high-tech savvy because it reminds them to act because they see the notice and sign up for the program. The financial impact, again, the cost for the Project Assist program that we're requesting for year 4 is $145,000, and the source is the penalty fees charged to current customers who pay their utility fees. The donations will be addressed in the next item. And with that, I'm here for any questions.
Great, thank you, Mr. Duncan. Member Perello, do you have any questions or comments?
Yes. Yeah, I think it's very important to realize where the feeder stock is for these funds come from. And if we could have Jay address that again, because there might be, especially in this time with the virus, people losing jobs, seniors hit extremely hard. There might be some desire to see if we could sweeten this just a bit for the specific calendar, for the specific year coming up.
So I've had the ability to interact with the signups throughout the fiscal year. And yes, Councilmember Perello, they are indicating an impact with coronavirus, not so much that they've contracted it, but the economic impact. And frankly, they're just happy that the city has a program. We're now in our 4th year, but this goes back to 2013 that we first introduced the concept of having a utility rate assistance program. So, certainly the late fees are not going down. The average over the last 8 fiscal years is over $918,000. So that's pretty steady, and we're taking less than 16% of that to fund this program. So there are some other stakeholders that are here today in the audience, or here today at the chamber, and that might want to comment.
I'm all ears, and Chair Lopez, I am not trying to give away the money from the city, for the city, but when we do see that this amount of penalty payments are what the feedstock is for this assistance to qualified people, and with, as Mr. Duncan eloquently stated, things may be getting a little more, things may be going a little more negative than positive with respect to the situation and economics in our society. We might want to address that. So if any other people want to step up and say something, I'm all ears. I don't know. I cannot tell who's there to speak, and those are my concerns, Chair Vedic.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Perello. If there's either Ms. Klima, if there's anyone who can address the concerns that Mr. Perello has brought up, and if I can add to that, I mean, considering Mr. Duncan's note about the number of people that signed up in May, in part due to the utility bill insert that was sent out, so people learned about the program, but the timeliness of it with many people who have been unemployed for at least 3 months, maybe a little less, maybe a little bit more. If we see more people are interested in signing up for the program, if there's anything that we can look at expanding the program, if I can turn it over to Ms. Klima or another staff member who can address that.
Madam Chair, Member Perello, this is City Attorney Steve Fisher. So as stated on slide 6, the city is studying how other cities are conducting their programs, and I think that would be one way to gauge the appropriate level of not just response in general, but specifically during the COVID local emergency that we're in the midst of. And I'd also like to point out that in response to the COVID emergency, one of the director orders has suspended the imposition of late fees so that revenue stream for that the program taps into is currently suspended. So that's going to affect that overall pool of money that this program draws from. So I would suggest that that staff, particularly on the additional COVID assistance, study that, and when this is brought forward to council, that any adjustments that are found through that survey and research are presented to council, and that the committee move forward with this item today, because the need for the extension of the program to keep going at the proposed rates should move forward, and any adjustments can be brought forward either when it reaches council, or if more time is needed to research that, it can always be brought back later in the year.
Great, thank you, Mr. Fisher. I think that seems appropriate, at least on my end. So I do just have one more question to clarify from Mr. Duncan. If I understand correctly, there's 531 participants at the moment. So based on this number, is that the cap on how many people might be benefiting from the program at this moment?
Chair Lopez, Councilmember Perello, that's correct. 531 participants are part of the fiscal year 2019-2020 program. The 75 participants that are in queue are waiting pending action from the committee and eventually the vote from City Council. And of course, that will likely be after the fiscal year. We will be working with billing and licensing staff to retro it back to July if it were to be approved in July. As you might recall, the utility billing they're billing every day of the month. So to walk you through, when people sign up, they become members or they get the discount or the financial relief the following month. So I hope that answers, yes, it's 531 participants that are benefiting from the program right now. The calculation is based upon 805 people signing up at the maximum amount of time, which is 12 full months. So that's how much $145,000 funds at $15 a month, 804 residents. So we definitely have room to grow.
Thank you. That does answer my question. I appreciate it. And so, based on the study that staff conducts, we may be able to look at a different opportunity. So appreciate that. Any other questions or comments, Member Perello?
Yes, I'd like to make a comment. when Mr. Fisher and Mr. Duncan spoke, at least the sound on my device faded in and faded out. I don't know if it was my device or they pulled away from the speaker. But a question to Mr. Fisher. It was mentioned that they're still looking into this. Would there be an expectation that whatever they're still looking into, the information will be available when this comes to council?
That is the goal to, in response to the questions raised today, to have more information when this reaches council, which I believe is scheduled for the 7th of July.
Okay. Okay. Thank you very much. That's my only question. I appreciate the presentation, Mr. Duncan.
Thank you for the time.
Great, thank you. And the recommended action is to adopt the resolution for the assistance program for fiscal year 2021 and authorize staff to direct up to $145,000 from penalty fees charged to current customers to pay their bills late to fund the utility rate assistance program for fiscal year 2021.
So, slight correction, Madam Chair. The recommended action is that the committee recommend that the council take those actions that you read.
Thank you for that clarification.
Madam Chair, I'd like to have a little back and forth with you, please. If we want to send this as is to the council, we could take action to recommend it. If we want to send it to the council where they could delve into it and decide if they want to increase the amount or increase the pool, the volume, $145,000, or they want to increase the 15. On this one here, since our third member didn't show yet, I would feel much more comfortable sending this to the full council and let them weigh in. I don't know how you feel.
So, and Mr. Fisher, if you can help to clarify, so we're taking action to recommend this to go to council, and then any other changes or based on the study, then that discussion can take place at council, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
And a clarification, Ms. Vian, when this goes to council, is it going to be an info consent?
Mr. Fisher, can you?
This is Sherry Klima. We can pull it from info consent since there's going to be a discussion. It sounds like you need more information from staff, and this sounds like more of a discussion, so we can make it a report rather than info consent. We are taking notes on the fact that you'd like us to come back with more information, so we've noted that, and we can note that also to your peers on the council when it comes to council.
And Chair Lopez, I appreciate the comment that was just made by Ms. Klima, because in some of the questions, it sounded as if the city attorney was telling us there would be more information available. If it goes to info consent, unless somebody asks questions about it, the information would normally, I believe, not be shared. It might be in a report, but it may not generate question and answer. This one here, I want my brethren on the council to put their fingerprints all over it. I want their hands on this one. I would move to forward this item to the city council.
Thank you, Mr. Perello, and I will second that motion.
Member Lopez?
Yes.
Member Peralta?
Yes.
The motion carries 2-0.
Great. Thank you for the information and for looking into that to our staff. We'll move on to the next item is the senior utility rate assistance.
Good morning, Chairwoman Lopez and Committee Member Perello. My name is Eden Alumeri. I'm the Assistant City Treasurer, and I'm here to report on the Senior Utility Rate Assistance Program. We're asking the committee to recommend that the Finance and Governance Committee recommend to the City Council to authorize staff to distribute $13,200 collected from donations held in Fund 571 to assist low-income seniors with utility payment. This program is separate and distinct from the Project Assist that was reported by Mr. Duncan earlier. One of the main differences is the sourcing of fund. In 2014, solicitation envelopes were mailed with utility bills to raise fund for a program that will support low-income seniors. So between 2014 and 2020, the city collected $13,200 from voluntary donations. Majority of the donations came in 2014, and after that year, some more contributions trickled in. Contributions came from both residential customers and commercial customers. This program is geared for the seniors only, 65 years and older. Of course, proof of age will be required through presentment of driver's license or passport or government-issued identification cards. This is also for low-income seniors only. Similar to Project Assist, the applicants will need to show proof that they are receiving benefits from programs like medical, Medicaid, CalFresh or food stamps, Southern California Edison Care Program, or Southern California Gas Care Program. Under this program, qualified senior will receive a one-time credit only. The amount of the credit that we're proposing is $100 towards the utility bill. With the $13,200 in fund, a total of 132 seniors will benefit from this program. According to the 2010 census, there are approximately 16,400 residents aged 65 and over in our city. This program can be described as modest in size. However, we are navigating an unprecedented time, and cash flow is critical to the vulnerable part of our community, especially the elderly. So there is a need to offer support and economic relief, which is of utmost importance at this time. So we feel that this is the opportune time to release the funds so we can assist our low-income seniors. The financial impact is that the amount collected from the donation being held in Fund 571, called Contribution Trust, under project named DNSRAP, will be used for $13,200. This is the end of my presentation, and I'm available if there are questions from the committee.
Thank you, Ms. Almeri. Member Perello, do you have any questions or comments?
First off, full disclosure, I'm over 65, and I count my blessings that I'm not, that I do not need to apply for these assist programs, these care programs with the gas company and the Edison company. But I'm over 65. It seems to me that the funds that have been donated and the direction that we have, I don't see a problem with this. I'm trying to, when it says there's only 16,400 individuals 65 and older in the city of Oxnard, the last census was 207,000 people, I want to see, I'm waiting to see the next census. I'm really waiting to see the next census. I know we are a young community, but there's one heck of a lot of senior citizens here, and I would support this.
Thank you, Mr. Perello. Ms. Almeri, just wanted to clarify the $13,200 based on the need of 132 seniors who would participate in the program. Would there be any funds left? What happens if this is what's left in the fund? Are we continuing to solicit donations, or what is the timeline of this program?
There is only $13,200 amount in the fund, and after that amount is exhausted, then the program will stop.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Alberry. And I believe Chair Flynn has joined, so I'll hand it over to you, Chair Flynn.
Let me ask a question before you hand it over, Ms. Sweeney. This item and the previous item, individuals that qualify could benefit from both of them, correct?
That is our proposal.
Okay, they could benefit from both of them. So the funds that are underutilized in the previous item that was just discussed could benefit seniors that did not qualify for this thing. They would not be able to get the one-shot $100 to the utility, but they would still be able to benefit by applying. I believe, I'm trying to find my notes, there was a difference of 800. There was 800 slots in the previous one and only 500 people have applied, I think is, if I'm finding my note here, I think that's what it was. So we still have room for seniors to apply as well as anyone else other than the group if they wanted to apply. Am I
No.
correct?
Mr. Duncan is here to answer the question.
I beg your pardon?
Chair Flynn, council members, both these items are actually separate.
Correct.
The calculation I think you're looking for in your notes is the budget amount requested was based upon 804 participants being accepted for the maximum amount of 12 months at $15 per month.
Okay, and then, thank you very much, Mr. Duncan. But I understand that the items are separate, but when we only have $13,000 on this last item, let me get my paper here. $13,200 on the last item. This is not an item that I would support taking city funds and putting into because this is based on simply donations unless I misinterpret what the background is. This is not city funds that have been taken from the general fund or any other accounts to fill this. It's simply been generated from donations in a process that was started in 2014. It was a voluntary donation program.
You're
Is that
correct, council member.
So,
Okay,
so council member, perhaps I can, the question I thought that you asked previously was whether seniors could fill those slots in the prior items capacity, and the answer would be yes if they qualified under that program. This item is just this specific donation pool of money, and as Ms. Alamari said, once that pool is gone, unless there are other donations that make their way to that account, then that's the limit for this item. So if seniors do qualify and apply under the utility rate assistance program, Project Assist, then they are certainly welcome to apply for that assistance.
Okay, thank you very much. And the point further points out, I believe, on page 27 of the staff report, the second point under the background, it says proof of eligibility on the item we are discussing now. Number 2, proof of eligibility in Southern California Edison or Southern California Gas Care Program. That is the same requirement that is with the previous program, is it not?
Yes, it is.
Okay, so what the gist was, I'm not trying to shaft seniors, of which I've already identified. I'm one of the group, but I'm not trying to take advantage of the seniors in the situation that would qualify for those that are in need of assistance. And so by supporting this, people could say I have a heart of stone here. I'm not in support of adding general fund money or Measure O money to this 13,200. If there are people that would fall into the thing, they can apply in the openings. The difference between 804 and 531, there seems to be ample room for people that are qualified to want to take advantage. If the council wants to take the item that we've identified as forwarding to the full council forward, change something, then they can do it, but not on this one. That's my only point. Those are my comments and concerns. Thank you very much, Chair Vianney, for letting me get that. I see now Mr. Flynn is back.
Thank you very much. And thank you to Committee Member Lopez for chairing the meeting. I'm sorry that I wasn't able to be there at 9 o'clock. This last item, item 3, the senior utility rate assistance, the 3,200 collected in donations, it should be, we should acknowledge that that was
13,000.
Right. 13,200. That was the brainchild of Mayor Pro Tem Ramirez, and I think it's been helpful because there are some seniors that are living on such a margin that this amount of money really does help out. And I might also add, because I wasn't here for the previous item, I don't really want to speak about the previous item. I just want to say that the only way that we can provide the financial assistance in utilities is by taking fines for late payments and directing it towards the utility program or these private donations. So that money, I think, Mr. Fisher, isn't it true, by state law or by the presenter, we can't take, because of state law, we cannot take ratepayer money and devote it to this, nor can, but I don't know if it excludes the possibility of taking general fund money. I know Councilman Perello said he didn't want general fund money allocated to this, but it's only the ratepayer money that can't be devoted to it, only the fines. Is that correct?
Correct. And the latter part of your comments, that would be something to address in the budget.
Right. I see. Right. Exactly. Well, again, I congratulate Mayor Pro Tem Ramirez. This is one of her legislative accomplishments, and I think it shines, and I think it is of great benefit to the seniors. And so with that, we see here that the we're going to refer this on to the full council for approval. And so I guess, Mr. Fisher, do we need a vote on this?
Yes.
Okay. Why don't we go ahead? Do we have a motion?
I'll move the recommended action.
Second.
Okay. All right, Madam City Clerk, there was a motion made by Committee Member Lopez and a second by Committee Member Perello. The vote, please.
Member Lopez,
Yes.
Member Perello,
Yes.
Chair Flynn.
Aye.
The motion carries 3-0.
Excellent. And the final item, item E, items for future agenda items. Any committee member like a future agenda item? I think members of the committee, one of the things we do need to take a look at are those previous future agenda items that perhaps have not yet been scheduled. So are there maybe next in 2 weeks? So I'd ask that we bring that forward to discuss that under items for future agendas. Are there any other items that members would like to have placed on the agenda? All right. Yes.
Mayor,
Yes.
I would just like to, this is the finance and governance, and there have been some pointed comments made about us approving the ability to borrow from the enterprise funds, and letter to the editor and email traffic and a lot of hot air being flown around and accusations. I think it needs to be addressed that the management of the enterprise funds, Mr. Housley, Mr. Castro, and Mr. The gentleman at the sewer
Hauser.
department, yes, that those facilities have been run in a situation that has allowed us to build up a reserve. And there's got to be some credit shared around here. This is the city. This is not a one-man show. This is not a one, finance, management, council,
Councilman
mayor.
Perello? Councilman
Yes.
Perello, very quickly. The very people that are opponents of doing this are going to point out that this is a violation of the Brown Act. So I would just ask, would you like that brought forward to the committee?
Well, okay, yeah.
Okay, so if you would like that as an item.
Okay, what I'd like to do is to give the credit to the individuals, and how you're going to bring that forward, Mayor, and bring the credit to the departments of the enterprise funds, the 3 enterprise funds.
Okay, so we can work that out in our agenda planning process. But we
I'm
just
sorry, Mayor, council members, so you'd like an update on how much we're borrowing from the utilities, or you'd like?
No. The fact that we have people and employees in those 3 enterprise funds that have been able to operate the enterprise funds, manage the enterprise funds, secure the enterprise funds, and departments that enable us to be in a situation where their reserves would be ability of our city council.
So
to
just an
borrow
update
from
on
the
those departments then
if
maybe?
need be.
Okay, all right. Is that clear, Ms. Klima? Was that Ms. Klima?
Yes, And we'll
Okay,
just
welcome
provide
back.
an update generally. Maybe we'll see if it should go to the other committee, the Public Works Committee, but definitely if you'd like an update on sort of the status of the 3 utilities in general and
Okay.
how they've been managed.
Yeah,
You appreciate it.
that's great. Okay, any other future items for future agenda items? All right, with that being said, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.